Halloween, the festival we know and love today, has a rich and fascinating history stretching back over 2,000 years. This beloved holiday, filled with costumes, candy, and spooky decorations, has its roots in ancient traditions that have evolved over centuries. Its origins lie in the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, celebrated on October 31st by the Celts who lived in what is now Ireland, Britain, and northern France. This festival was one of the most important events in the Celtic calendar, marking a significant transition in the year. For the Celts, Samhain marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter, a time associated with death and the supernatural. The harvest was gathered and the fields were prepared for the cold months ahead. It was a time of both gratitude for the bounty of the earth and preparation for the hardships of winter. The Celts believed that on the night of Samhain, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead became blurred. This thinning of the veil allowed spirits to pass through and walk among the living, creating an atmosphere charged with mystery and otherworldly energy. It was a time when spirits could easily cross over, and the living could communicate with their deceased loved ones. Families would gather to honor their ancestors, seeking their guidance and blessings for the coming year. This connection to the spirit world was a central aspect of Samhain. Huge bonfires were lit, and people would gather to offer sacrifices, make predictions about the future, and ward off evil spirits. These fires were believed to have protective and cleansing powers, and communities would come together to share in the rituals and festivities. Samhain was a time of both celebration and fear. While it was an opportunity to connect with the dead and seek guidance from the other world, it was also a time when malevolent spirits could wreak havoc. The duality of the festival reflected the complex relationship the Celts had with the supernatural. While it was an opportunity to connect with the dead and seek guidance from the other world, it was also a time when malevolent spirits could wreak havoc. To protect themselves, people performed various rituals and used charms to ward off these harmful entities. To appease these spirits, people would often leave offerings of food and drink outside their homes. These offerings were meant to placate wandering spirits and ensure that they would not cause trouble for the living. This practice of leaving treats for spirits is a precursor to the modern tradition of trick-or-treating. The festival was deeply ingrained in Celtic culture. It was a time for communities to come together, share stories, and celebrate their heritage. The customs and rituals of Samhain were passed down through generations, preserving the rich cultural legacy of the Celts. Its influence can still be seen today in the many customs and traditions associated with Halloween. From dressing up in costumes to carving pumpkins and going door to door for treats, the echoes of Samhain continue to resonate in our modern celebrations. The spirit of the ancient festival lives on, reminding us of our connection to the past and the enduring power of tradition. As the Roman Empire expanded its vast territories, it began to influence and absorb aspects of the diverse cultures it encountered. The Romans were not just conquerors, they were also great assimilators, often blending their own traditions with those of the people they ruled. This cultural exchange was particularly evident in the Celtic festival of Samhain, which the Romans encountered when they conquered Celtic territories. Samhain, a festival marking the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter, was deeply rooted in Celtic tradition. The Romans, with their own rich tapestry of traditions and beliefs, began to blend their customs with Samhain, leading to a gradual transformation of the festival. This merging of cultures was not immediate but evolved over time as the Romans settled into Celtic lands. One significant Roman influence was the incorporation of their own festivals, such as Feralia and Pomona. These festivals, celebrated around the same time as Samhain, brought new dimensions to the Celtic celebration. Feralia, held in late October, was a solemn occasion dedicated to honoring the dead. The Romans believed that during Feralia, the spirits of the deceased would return to the earth, and offerings were made to appease these spirits and ensure their peaceful rest. Pomona, on the other hand, was a joyous harvest festival dedicated to the Roman goddess of fruit and trees. Celebrated around the same time, it was a time to give thanks for the bounty of the harvest and to honor Pomona, who was believed to protect and bless the fruit trees. Elements of both these festivals, particularly the focus on honoring the dead and celebrating the harvest, blended seamlessly with Samhain, further enriching its traditions. The Celts, who already had a deep reverence for the dead and the cycles of nature, found common ground with these Roman customs. The Roman influence on Samhain wasn't limited to just adding new elements. It also brought about changes in how the festival was observed and celebrated. Over time, the Romans' more structured calendar and their system of governance began to affect how Samhain was observed. The Romans introduced a more organized approach to festivals, which contrasted with the Celts' more fluid and nature-based timing. The once fluid nature of the Celtic festival, tied closely to the cycles of nature and the changing seasons, started to become more standardized under Roman influence. This standardization meant that Samhain began to be celebrated on fixed dates, aligning more with the Roman calendar. By the time the Roman Empire began to decline, Samhain had undergone significant changes. It was no longer purely a Celtic festival, but had become a blend of Celtic and Roman traditions, reflecting the cultural fusion that had taken place over centuries. This blend of traditions created a rich tapestry of customs and beliefs, making Samhain a unique festival that carried the legacies of both the Celts and the Romans. The influence of Roman customs on Samhain was profound and lasting. This fusion of Celtic and Roman traditions laid the groundwork for the next major shift in the evolution of Halloween, the arrival of Christianity. As Christianity spread, it brought new influences and changes, further transforming Samhain into the Halloween we recognize today. With the spread of Christianity throughout Europe, the Church encountered many pagan traditions. These traditions were deeply ingrained in the local cultures and had been practiced for centuries, making them an integral part of the people's lives and beliefs. Rather than trying to eliminate these deeply rooted customs, the Church often opted to absorb them into Christian practice. This approach allowed the Church to make the transition to Christianity smoother for the local populations who could continue their familiar rituals under a new religious framework. This strategy proved very effective in converting the pagan population. By integrating pagan traditions into Christian celebrations, the Church made Christianity more appealing and accessible to the masses, facilitating a more widespread and rapid conversion. Samhain, with its focus on spirits and the afterlife, was ripe for Christianization. This ancient Celtic festival, marking the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter, was a time when the boundary between the living and the dead was believed to be at its thinnest. In 609 AD, Pope Boniface IV established May 13th as All Martyrs' Day, a day to honor all Christian martyrs. This was a significant move to create a Christian counterpart to the pagan festivals that celebrated the dead. This feast day was later moved to November 1st by Pope Gregory IV in the 9th century and renamed All Saints' Day or All Hallows' Day. This change strategically aligned the Christian celebration with the timing of Samhain, further integrating the two traditions. The evening before All Saints' Day, October 31st, became known as All Hallows Eve, or Hallowe'en, eventually contracted to Halloween. This night was seen as a time to prepare for the holy day by engaging in various rituals and festivities. The Church's intention was to provide a Christian alternative to Samhain. By offering a new way to honor the dead and celebrate the afterlife, the Church hoped to shift the focus from pagan beliefs to Christian teachings. All Saints' Day honored all Christian saints, while All Souls' Day, celebrated on November 2nd, commemorated the faithful departed. These back-to-back holy days created a period of reflection and remembrance for the Christian community. These holy days, placed strategically around the time of Samhain, encouraged people to focus on Christian teachings about death and the afterlife rather than pagan beliefs. The Church aimed to replace the fear of wandering spirits with the comfort of Christian salvation and eternal life. Despite the Church's efforts, many of the ancient customs associated with Samhain persisted. The lighting of bonfires, a practice believed to ward off evil spirits, continued to be a central part of the celebrations. The belief in wandering spirits, the lighting of bonfires, and the wearing of costumes continued to be practiced, albeit often with a Christian interpretation. These customs were adapted to fit the new religious context, blending old and new traditions. For example, the costumes worn on All Hallows Eve were often those of saints, angels, and biblical figures. This practice allowed people to honor their faith while still engaging in the festive spirit of the season. Over time, these traditions evolved and spread, eventually leading to the modern celebration of Halloween. Today, Halloween is a blend of ancient pagan rituals and Christian practices, reflecting the rich tapestry of history and culture that has shaped it. From its origins in the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain to its transformation into a Christian celebration, Halloween has become a global phenomenon. It is a testament to the enduring power of cultural traditions and the ways in which they can adapt and evolve over time. Even today, the influence of these early Christian efforts can be seen in the way we celebrate Halloween and All Saints' Day. The blending of pagan and Christian elements has created a unique and enduring tradition that continues to captivate and inspire people around the world. Halloween, having evolved from ancient Celtic rites to a festival with both pagan and Christian influences, was carried across the Atlantic Ocean with European immigrants to the New World. Primarily brought by colonists from England and Ireland, Halloween initially faced a mixed reception in the American colonies. The early settlers in New England, with their strict Puritan beliefs, frowned upon the festival's pagan roots and its association with superstition. In contrast, Halloween found more acceptance in the southern colonies, particularly in Maryland, where a blend of English and Irish settlers created a more tolerant environment for the celebration. As waves of immigrants from different European countries arrived in the 18th and 19th centuries, they brought their unique traditions and beliefs, further enriching the tapestry of American folklore and customs. Despite initial resistance in some regions, Halloween gradually gained a foothold in America. The blending of different cultural traditions, coupled with the spirit of adaptation inherent in a new land, allowed Halloween to evolve into a unique celebration, distinct from its European origins. This fusion of cultures would ultimately shape Halloween into the festival we know and celebrate in the United States today.